The deep space comes? Console crackled, filling the silent bridge of the Terran frigate Valor with a sound that was both eerie and urgent. Commander Rylan Kale leaned over the panel, frowning at the flickering signal on the display. Wasn't like the usual distress calls. This one was fragmented, almost alive, and carried a tone of desperation that his years in the fleet had never prepared him for. The language was alien, but the emotional imprint was clear: fear, loss, and a plea for help that seemed to reach directly into his chest. The crew around him moved quickly, hands flying over consoles, analyzing the source. Sensors traced the signal to a sector far beyond mapped space, a region known for unstable gravitational anomalies and electromagnetic storms. Many fleets avoided it, but the message was undeniable. It was a call for help that only humans could answer. Kale's jaw tightened. Prepare the ship for immediate jump. We're going in, he ordered, his voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. Every officer on the bridge felt the tension. They knew the risks. Yet something about the signal demanded action. As the Valar initiated the quantum jump, the stars stretched into streaks, the familiar hum of the engines vibrating. Through the deck, Kale watched the rippling corridors of light, his mind racing with questions. Who was sending this? Were they truly in danger, or was this a trap? The fleet's AI offered analysis, but it could only calculate probabilities. It could not feel the urgency woven into the alien cries, nor the subtle patterns in the signal that hinted at intelligence under siege. When the ship emerged from jump, the sector was eerily quiet. Stars glimmered in uncharted constellations, and nearby planets rotated silently, untouched by any known civilization. The signal was stronger now, pulsing like a heartbeat across the CUM's grid. Kale walked to the observation deck, his eyes scanning the void. In the distance, he saw it, a shattered space station, its hull cracked, energy arcs dancing over its surface, and smaller debris tumbling silently into the darkness. The alien voice, still transmitted through the station's automated systems, seemed to wail for help with a haunting clarity. Scans show life signs. Commander, said Lieutenant Maraven, her voice tight with disbelief. Several beings are alive inside, but the station's structure is unstable. Radiation levels are spiking. Getting close will be dangerous. Kale nodded, already calculating the risks. This was the first time he had faced a situation where hesitation could mean the difference between saving an entire species and leaving them to die. He felt the weight of command settle on him like gravity. The Valar maneuvered closer, its thrusters sending careful bursts to match the erratic movements of the crippled station. The alien distress signals crackled louder, as if responding to the humans' approach. Kale felt a strange pull, an almost instinctive drive to save these unknown beings. Every officer on the bridge could feel it, the kind of call that resonated with something deeper than duty. It was as if the universe itself had chosen them for this moment. As boarding pods prepared for launch, Kale briefed his team. "You don't know what we'll find inside. There may be traps, environmental hazards, or worse. But we answer calls. Like this. That's what Terran Marines do. Go in together, we protect each other, and we bring them home if we can." His voice carried a calm authority that steadied the nerves of even the most experienced soldiers. The boarding party suited up, their exosuits humming softly, and the atmosphere in the launch bay thickened with anticipation. The pods detached and glided silently toward the station, the fractured hull looming larger with every passing second. Kale's eyes narrowed on the nearest airlock, damaged but just large enough for a docking. Energy arcs danced around it unpredictably, forcing the pilots to adjust their course repeatedly. The alien voice seemed to react to their movement, a trembling note of hope in the otherwise desperate cry. Kale felt it in his chest, an almost human-like plea for help. As the pod docked, the boarding team prepared for the unknown. The airlock hissed, and sparks flew, but it held. They entered the station, and immediately the environment hit them in stable gravity, flickering lights and corridors filled with twisted metal. The distress signal echoed through the halls, guiding them deeper into the station. Each step was careful, deliberate. Each corner could hide a collapsed floor or a threat they could not see. Kale's heart raced, but he maintained his calm. Stay sharp. Stick to the signal. They're alive, and they need us. The alien cries grew more coherent as they moved deeper, forming a pattern he could almost understand. He realized with both awe and unease that this was more than a call for help. It was a test, a beacon designed to measure the worthiness of those who would respond at the heart of the station. Through a corridor partially collapsed by energy discharges, he glimpsed movement. Alien silhouettes, thin and fragile, their forms luminous, trembling in the dim light. They looked frightened, but intelligent, scanning the humans with hope and caution. Kale felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him like never before. The Terran Marines were the answer to a species' desperate cry. Every step, every decision, determined whether they lived or perished in the void of space. As the team approached, the aliens raised what resembled hands in greeting and plea. The signal's final pulses resonated through the chamber, filling the air with a vibrating hum that Kale instinctively recognized as life-fragile, desperate, but alive. He knew the real challenge was only beginning, yet in that moment, a sense of purpose filled him. Terran Marines answered calls, no one else could, and they would not fail now. The station groaned. The lights flickered, and the alien eyes followed. The humans, as they moved closer, their trembling forms mirroring the urgency of their message. Kale steadied himself, inhaled deeply, and prepared to lead his team into the heart of danger. Determined to rescue a civilization that had no one else to answer their cries, the Marines moved cautiously through the wrecked station. Their boots clanging against warped metal floors and broken panels, Commander Kale led the team, scanning every shadow, every flicker of light. The aliens had stayed hidden, trembling. Behind shattered walls, their glowing forms faint and fragile. Kale could see the fear in their eyes, fear of the unknown, fear of the humans, fear of whatever had destroyed their home. He held up a hand, signaling the Marines to slow down. "We're here to help," he said, his voice steady, echoing through the corridor. It was more than words. It was a promise, a calm anchor in the chaos. The first alien stepped forward tentatively. Its translucent skin shimmered faintly, revealing internal bioluminescence that pulsed in rhythm with the distress signal they had followed. It spoke not in words, but in a series of melodic tones that the Valor's translator began decoding. Each note carried emotion, fear, confusion, and hope. Kale and his team listened carefully, realizing that these were not mindless creatures. They were intelligent beings, trapped, desperate, and in need of protection. As they advanced deeper, the station's instability became more apparent. Sparks flew from damaged panels, and energy arcs licked the walls. Gravity fluctuated in patches, forcing Marines to cling to handrails or float briefly before snapping back to the floor. The aliens seemed used to the chaos, moving with cautious grace despite their fragile forms. Kale observed how their movements avoided the worst of the hazards. He silently noted their patterns, sensing that understanding these creatures would be key to the mission's success. Suddenly, a section of the corridor collapsed ahead, sending a shower of debris into the air. One Marine shouted as he barely avoided being crushed, and Kale quickly assessed the path forward. "Stick close to the aliens," he ordered. "They know this station better than we do. Follow their lead, but stay ready for anything." The team adjusted, letting the trembling aliens guide them. It was an uneasy alliance, humans relying on aliens for navigation, and aliens relying on humans for protection, but necessity forced cooperation. Deeper inside, they encountered the first signs of the enemy. Shattered control consoles had scorch marks, walls bore claw-like gouges, and faint energy trails indicated advanced weaponry had been deployed. Kale realized the aliens' world had been attacked by a force far beyond their ability to defend themselves. The Marines' mission was no longer simple rescue, it was reconnaissance, protection, and potentially combat against an unknown threat. The stakes had risen sharply, and tension built with each careful step. The aliens led them to a central chamber, where more of their kind had gathered. Their glowing forms flickered in unison, almost communicating silently, a pattern that Kale felt rather than fully understood. The atmosphere was thick with fear and anticipation. One of the aliens projected a holographic map of the station, showing corridors blocked by debris, energy surges, and what looked like predator paths. Kale studied it, realizing that their survival depended on both human strategy and alien knowledge. The two species had to work together, each complementing the other's strengths. Just as Kale formulated a plan, a low rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the temperature seemed to drop. Shadows shifted in the corners, elongated and warped by the station's failing lights. The Marines raised their weapons instinctively. "Stay alert," Kale whispered. The aliens flinched at the sounds but did not flee. Instead, their glowing forms pulsed, guiding the humans toward a safer passage deeper into the station. Kale could feel the tension tightening around him like a vista. Enemy might still be present, watching, waiting, and ready to strike. Time became a strange thing in the wrecked corridors. Every turn brought new hazards. Every step required caution, and yet the aliens continued to lead, trembling but determined. Kale watched them carefully, noticing subtle signs. The flicker of light in their eyes, the rhythm of their pulses, even the way they adjusted their movements in anticipation of danger. These creatures were more than victims, they were survivors. They acknowledged the Marines needed to endure this labyrinth of destruction. Eventually, they reached a large chamber that seemed to have been the station's command hub. Walls were scorched, consoles shattered, but energy readings indicated life still lingered. The aliens moved forward cautiously, signaling the Marines to follow. Kale's heart pounded. This was the moment they had been working toward, the first clear opportunity to rescue the survivors. But it also felt like the calm before a storm. The station groaned and sparked unpredictably, and Kale knew danger could strike at any second. He signaled the team to form a protective perimeter around the aliens. "Get them out alive," he said, determination hardening his voice. "No. One gets left behind." Aliens responded with subtle, luminescent pulses, almost like a nod of trust. Kale realized then that the bond forming between humans and aliens was fragile, but essential. Their cooperation wasn't just a convenience, it was the only way they would survive what lay ahead. And in that tense silence, Kale knew the first contact was just the beginning. Beyond this chamber, the real threat awaited, a force that had torn apart an entire civilization. The Marines were ready, their weapons primed, hearts steady, and minds focused. Together with the trembling aliens, they would face whatever came. Next, an unknown enemy, a collapsing station, and the perilous challenge of saving a species that no one else could help. The deeper the Marines and aliens moved into the station, the clearer the danger became. Shattered consoles and scorched walls told a story of sudden, overwhelming attack. Commander Kale's eyes narrowed as he examined the evidence. High energy, blasts, claw-like gouges in reinforced steel, and scorched footprints that were not alien. They were from a predator far more advanced, fast and deadly than anything the crew had encountered. The alien's glow flickered with fear, and Kale felt the tension tighten around him like a vice. He called the team to a halt in a wide corridor, the walls warped and unstable. "Listen," he whispered, motioning for silence. The hum of damaged systems was punctuated by something else, a low, mechanical growl echoing through the metal corridors. The Marines raised their weapons, scanning the shadows. The alien guides pressed close, their pulses quickening, trembling yet resolute. Kale realized immediately this enemy was not just a threat to the station. It was hunting them specifically. The holographic map the aliens had projected earlier flickered in Kale's mind. "The path forward is dangerous, but it's our only chance to find the survivors," he murmured. He studied the signs. Sections of the station completely destroyed, energy fields still active, and corridors blocked by debris. The enemy had been thorough. Every open space was a potential trap. Kale knew they needed a strategy, combining human ingenuity with the aliens' intimate knowledge of the station. As they advanced cautiously, the enemy made its first move. A shadow detached itself from the darkness, a hulking, armored figure with eyes that glowed like molten metal.
Out.
Its speed was unnatural, moving across the corridor with silent efficiency. Marines opened fire, plasma bolts igniting the air, but the creature barely flinched. Kale barked orders directing the Marines to create a defensive line while using the aliens. Guidance to maneuver around weak points in the structure. The enemy adapted instantly, weaving through debris, testing their tactics. Kale realized that survival depended on cooperation. The aliens, despite their fear, began to emit a coordinated pulse. It's a kind of bioelectric communication that interfered with the enemy's sensors. It was delicate, powerful, and risky. If they miscalculated, the station itself could collapse. The Marines followed the rhythm, timing their moves with the alien signals. Every corridor, every junction became a high-stakes puzzle, battle of wits and reflexes. The team reached a junction where the corridor split into multiple paths. Kale studied the patterns of energy and enemy movement. "We can't split up," he said firmly. "We stick together. Follow their pulsets, our guide, and it's the only way to avoid ambushes." The aliens flickered in agreement, trembling, but leading confidently through the less damaged corridors. Each step required absolute trust, every decision critical. Kale could feel the pressure mounting. One wrong move could mean the end for all of them. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the station, sending debris flying and knocking some Marines off their feet. The enemy had anticipated their route and triggered a structural collapse. Kale shouted for everyone to brace themselves. Sparks danced across the walls, and the air filled with the acrid smell of burning circuitry. The alien's glow dimmed. Momentarily in fear, but Kale grabbed one and steadied it, whispering reassurances. This was no longer just a rescue mission. They were in a battle for survival. As the dust settled, Kale scanned the corridor ahead. Through the haze, he saw more of the enemy, emerging, shadowy, fast-moving, and intelligent. The Marines readied their weapons, synchronized with the alien's pulse. Kale realized that victory wouldn't come from brute force alone. It would require understanding, adaptation, and a bond strong enough to outmatch this relentless predator. Every step forward became a test testing courage, coordination, and trust. Kale watched as his team moved with precision, humans and aliens relying on each other in ways neither had imagined. The station itself seemed alive, reacting to their movements. Collapsing in some places, holding steady in others. It was a battlefield designed to challenge both intellect and resolve. By the time they reached the command hub, the danger had only increased. Energy readings indicated the enemy had control of parts of the station systems, manipulating doors, gravity, and environmental hazards. Kale's mind raced, calculating their next moves. Every corridor was a gauntlet, every shadow a potential threat, and amidst the fear, the bond between humans and aliens grew stronger. The aliens' pulse guided them, the Marines' firepower protected them. Together they were beginning to understand the enemy's patterns. Kale knew the coming moments would define the mission's success. The hidden threat was not just a physical danger, it was a test of trust, intelligence, and courage. Every decision now could save lives or doom them all. And as the enemy's shadow flickered again in the distance, Kale tightened his grip on his rifle and whispered, "We survive together. No one gets left behind." The Marines advanced, hearts pounding, weapons ready, moving as one with the trembling. Aliens, each pulse, each step, each breath brought them closer to the truth of what had attacked this world, and closer to the challenge that would test them in ways they could never have imagined. The command hub was a ruin of sparking consoles, shattered viewports, and smoke that curled in slow, ghostly waves. Commander Kale stepped cautiously over twisted metal and debris, his rifle raised, eyes scanning every corner. The aliens followed. Close, their luminous forms trembling, but steady, guiding the Marines with subtle pulses. Every step forward was a delicate balance too fast, and they risked triggering more hazards. It's too slow, and the enemy could strike from the shadows. The tension was suffocating, yet a strange sense of purpose bound the team together. Kale studied the room. Energy readings flickered erratically, showing that parts of the station were still under the enemy's control. It was clear now, this attack had been deliberate, precise, and calculated to crush the alien civilization entirely. The Marines' arrival had been anticipated, Kale realized, and the station itself had become a trap designed to test their skills, coordination, and resolve. But the humans had something the enemy didn't: adaptability, ingenuity, and the willingness to trust an alien species they barely understood. The aliens projected a larger holographic map, showing the paths the enemy had taken and the remaining survivors' likely locations. Kale leaned over it, absorbing every detail. Split into 2 teams, he ordered. Team Alpha follows the main corridor and secures the survivors. Team Beta covers our rear and disables any active threats. Timing and coordination are critical. Any mistakes and we lose them all. The Marines nodded and the aliens pulsed, in response, signaling their understanding. As Team Alpha advanced, they encountered more of the hidden enemy. Shadowy forms moved with lightning speed, slipping through narrow gaps and striking at weak points. Kale's team fired carefully, each shot aimed to drive the creatures back without endangering the aliens. The Marines began to notice patterns: certain energy signatures, repeated movements, and predictable attack routes. With the aliens' guidance, they adapted quickly, using the station's unstable structure to their advantage. Suddenly, a massive energy surge swept through the hub, knocking Marines off their feet and sending consoles crashing to the floor. Smoke and sparks filled the air. The aliens recoiled, trembling, but Kale grabbed one and steadied it. "We're not leaving anyone behind," he growled. The alien pulsed brightly, a sign of recognition and trust. The bond forming between humans and aliens was more than necessity, it was becoming mutual reliance, partnership forged in survival. Kale realized the enemy's true strategy was psychological as well as physical. The creatures had designed the environment to induce fear, confusion, and hesitation. Every corridor collapse, every sudden energy burst was meant to disrupt their rhythm. But the humans and aliens had begun to move as one. The Marines' disciplined training, combined with the aliens' intimate knowledge of the station, allowed them to anticipate attacks, avoid traps, and advance steadily through a narrow side corridor. Kale found the first group of survivors, small, delicate aliens huddled in fear. Their eyes glowed weakly, reflecting terror and hope in equal measure. The Marines formed a protective circle around them, weapons raised, while Kale communicated reassurance. "We're here to get you out," he said. "Stay close and follow our lead." The aliens responded with synchronized pulses, guiding the humans through a safer path to the extraction point. The enemy struck again. A coordinated attack aimed to separate the groups. Kale's team moved with precision, humans and aliens in perfect synchrony. Using the environment as cover, they neutralized threats while keeping the survivors safe. Each pulse, each step, each movement was a test of trust, coordination, and courage. The station's unstable hull groaned ominously, reminding them that time was limited, reaching a wider chamber. Kale noticed something alarming: a massive energy conduit feeding power to unknown sections of the station, likely under enemy control. Left unchecked, it could collapse the entire hub or open paths for more predators to strike. He made a decision. Team Beta, disable that conduit. Team Alpha, keep the survivors safe. We end this now. The humans and aliens split, moving with unwavering focus, knowing the survival of an entire species depended on their actions as they worked. Kale realized the turning point had arrived. The mission was no longer simply about rescue, it was about proving humanity's worth, courage, and ingenuity in the face of a superior, relentless force. Every Marine's training, every alien's instinct, every decision made in these tense moments would decide whether the station and the species it housed survived. Kale's heart pounded, but he felt a rare clarity. The bond between humans and aliens had transformed fear into determination. The enemy, though cunning and deadly, had underestimated the combination of Terran resourcefulness and alien knowledge. With precise timing, coordinated movements, and unwavering trust, they would overcome the hidden threat. and as Kale glanced at the trembling but resolute aliens, he knew they were ready to fight not as separate species, but as allies bound by a shared purpose: survival against impossible odds. The chamber shook violently as the energy conduit erupted in arcs of uncontrolled electricity. Sparks flew across the walls, hissing and sizzling as debris rained down from the ceiling. Commander Kale barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. Team Beta, finish disabling that conduit. Team Alpha, keep the survivors protected. Marines and aliens moved in perfect coordination, their every step deliberate, their trust in each other absolute. The station seemed alive with danger, yet the bond they had formed guided them through the chaos. From the shadows, the hidden enemy launched a coordinated strike. Hulking silhouettes moved with unnatural speed, their glowing eyes locked on the Marines and aliens alike. Plasma fire lit the chamber as Marines returned fire, careful to avoid hitting the fragile aliens. Each shot counted, each maneuver was precise. The aliens pulsed, sending bioelectric signals that disrupted the enemy's sensors, creating brief openings that allowed the humans to flank and neutralize threats. Kale's pulse raced, but he kept his focus razor-sharp. Survival depended on timing, trust, and adaptability. The survivors huddled in the center, trembling but moving as directed by their rescuers. Kale noticed the subtle patterns in the enemy's movements, repeated strategies, predictable ambushes. Using the aliens' guidance, the Marines anticipated each attack, turning the station's unstable environment into a weapon against the intruders. Sparks flew, walls groaned, and the floor shifted beneath them, but the team pressed on with unwavering determination. The human-alien alliance was proving more formidable than the enemy had anticipated. Suddenly, a massive section of the ceiling collapsed, blocking their planned exit. Kale assessed the situation, realizing that improvisation was their only option. He signaled the aliens to guide them through a secondary path, narrow, unstable, but survivable. Marines lifted debris, creating a makeshift passage while alien pulses illuminated the safest route. Every step was tense. One misstep could mean death. Yet, they moved as one, humans and aliens, synchronizing their efforts in a display of trust and precision. The enemy attempted to cut them off, merging from side corridors in waves. Led a counter-assault, flanking the attackers while Team Beta disabled energy barriers that the Predators used to isolate them. The Marines' training, combined with the aliens' instinctive understanding of the station, allowed them to outmaneuver the attackers. Sparks erupted, metal twisted, and the sounds of battle echoed through the wrecked corridors. But the human-alien team pressed forward relentlessly. Finally, they reached a large observation deck, overlooking the station's outer hull. Through shattered windows, they could see the void beyond, silent, infinite, but now filled with the possibility of survival. The survivors, guided by Kale and his team, moved carefully across unstable flooring. Every pulse of alien light seemed to resonate with hope, and every step the Marines took reinforced their promise. No one would be left behind. The enemy made one last desperate attack, a coordinated charge that threatened to overwhelm the team. Kale shouted commands, directing fire, coordinating movement, and protecting the aliens at the same time. The Marines held their ground, the aliens pulsed in rhythm, and together they repelled the attackers. One by one, the enemy was neutralized or forced back. The station itself, aiding the humans and aliens as its damaged systems, reacted unpredictably to the chaos. With the immediate threat subdued, Kale and his team gathered the survivors and prepared for extraction. Boarding pods were readied, and the aliens' pulses guided them toward the safest exit path. The Marines moved with vigilance, every weapon ready for a potential ambush, but the enemy had been driven back. Relief mingled with exhaustion as they finally reached the pods, the survivors trembling but alive. Kale allowed himself a brief moment to breathe, the weight of command heavy yet triumphant, as the pods detached and glided back toward the Valar. Kale looked over the rescued aliens. Their glow was steady now, a signal of hope and trust. The humans had answered a call that no one else could, facing unknown dangers, navigating a collapsing station. and protecting a fragile species in the void. The HFY essence was clear. Human courage, ingenuity, and determination had prevailed where others might have failed. Kale's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and relief. They had survived the battle, forged bonds across species, and proved that Terran Marines could answer cries for help no matter how impossible the odds. The rescued aliens clung to one another, their pulses echoing in rhythm with the humans' steady steps. The station was a ruin, but life had been preserved. And in that moment, Kale knew the story of survival, trust, and cooperation would resonate far beyond the silent corridors of the wrecked station. The pods detached from the station, gliding silently through the void, carrying the rescued aliens and the exhausted Marines. Commander Kale leaned back in his seat, finally allowing himself a moment to breathe. The station was a smoldering ruin behind them, but the lives they had saved shone brightly in the soft glow of the alien forms around him. Relief mingled with vigilant space was never truly safe, but for now, they had survived. The aliens hovered close, their pulses slow and steady now, signaling trust and gratitude. Kale watched them, fascinated by the delicate patterns of light they emitted. These were not mindless creatures. They were intelligent, resilient, and capable of deep emotion. One of the aliens, smaller and paler than the rest, floated up to Kale, its glow brightening as it made eye contact. Kale could almost feel the emotion radiating from it. Relief, curiosity, and something that resembled hope. The bond they had formed during the crisis was real, tangible, and undeniable. Back on the Valor, the Marines began debriefing, tending to minor injuries, and securing the station data retrieved during the mission. Kale reviewed the records, seeing the scale of the attack, entire alien settlements destroyed, advanced weaponry employed, and signs of a highly organized enemy force. The threat was far from gone, but humanity had proven it could respond where no one else could. They had not only survived, they had succeeded against impossible odds. The rescued aliens gathered in a communal space, their pulses creating a calming rhythm throughout the ship. Kale noticed how their glow harmonized, almost musical, and he realized that their communication was more than functional, it was emotional. The humans moved cautiously among them, respecting their space, learning to interpret their signals. Trust had been hard-won, and now it shone brightly, a testament to what cooperation and courage could achieve. Kale reflected on the mission. Every decision, every risk, every pulse of alien light had mattered. The Marines' training had been critical, yes, but the success depended equally on understanding, patience, and cooperation. Humanity had stepped into the unknown and emerged not just alive, but stronger, more capable, and worthy of the trust placed in them by another species. The HFY story was clear. In the void, humans were a force that could rise to challenges no one else dared face, as the Valor set course for a safe orbit. The aliens approached Kale, one by one, offering gestures of gratitude, subtle pulses, gentle touches, and faint melodic tones that the translators began decoding. "You saved us," one voice finally formed through the translator, simple and yet powerful. Kale nodded, acknowledging the words. "We did what we had to do," he replied, glancing at his team, at the aliens, and at the endless black beyond. The ship. Night after night, the aliens adapted to life aboard the Valor, and the Marines adapted alongside them. Friendships had formed, bonds of trust deepened, and the crew had learned that cooperation could bridge even the widest gaps of biology and culture. Kale found himself watching them often, marveling at how fear had been transformed into partnership, how desperation had evolved into hope. It was a lesson in resilience, trust, and the power of stepping forward when others could not. The mission debrief concluded, and Kale knew that their success would not be the last call for help humanity would answer. Across the stars, threats lingered, civilizations waited, and the unknown stretched endlessly. But the Terran Marines had proven they could respond, survive, and protect. They were a force that inspired hope, not just fear. And as the Valor glided further into the void, Kale looked at the stars and felt a deep certainty. Humanity's role in the galaxy was only beginning. And together with Ali's even alien ones, they could face whatever darkness awaited. The aliens' pulses glowed brighter as they hovered around the crew, a silent promise of loyalty and shared purpose. Kale's team had forged not just survival, but a partnership that would endure beyond this mission. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would remember.